little bit that you were discussing with us. You mentioned Iran twice. So I'm curious if you would talk a little bit about your foreign policy vision.
For the last, I guess it would be 13 years, I've spent a lot of time and energy focused on trying to understand and articulate a vision as to how we deal, which I believe is the most virulent threat facing America right now, from externally, that is, and that's radical Islam. And I did that. I started that a couple years after 9/11. Like everybody else, when 9/11 happened, my knowledge of what is a Sunni, what is a Shiite, what is Islam, I mean, I think most of us in America, and it's no different, had a very rudimentary and probably opaque understanding of what Islam was about, and certainly what these Al-Qaeda folks were about. And the president went out and said, well, we're in a war on terrorism, and I sort of accepted that, and supported trying to fight this war on terrorism. The more I looked at it, the more I realized that the war isn't on terrorism, it's against these radical Muslims, and that I had an obligation to understand the enemy better than what was being explained to the American public. So I've spent a lot of time and energy trying to understand this enemy. And actually, when I was in the Senate, I gave a series of speeches that I called the Gathering Storm of the 21st Century, where I laid out back in 05 and 06 that we had to define the enemy, we had to explain to the American public who they are, what they want to accomplish, why they want to accomplish it, what we have to do to defeat them, and to rally not just the American people, but the Islamic world, because if we don't get the Islamic world on our side on this debate, then the more radical elements of Islam are going to eventually hold sway. And right now you're talking about a relatively small group of people who would be considered radicals, the Al-Qaedas, the ISIS, the Taliban, and those. But that number is growing. I don't think no one doubts that number is growing. And when you start with a base of 1.3 billion Muslims, and you say, well, it's only a small percentage. Well, what's a small percentage of 1.3 billion? Millions of people, and spread all over the world potentially. And you saw yesterday a couple from Mississippi being attracted. Why? Because they're out there speaking a very bold ideology that is very troubling to me. But I understand some people, when you speak in those bold colors and you look at dictators in the past who spoke in these very passionate, bold, and clear, black and white type of way, it attracts people to do things that you would never think people would be capable of doing. And so I think it's important for us to have a leader who's honest with the American public about the nature of our enemy and has a clear idea as to how to defeat them. And I don't think this president has been honest. He won't even use the word Islam in describing these attacks that have occurred here in our own soil. He refuses to suggest that Islam has anything to do with ISIS. That's just dishonest. And when you don't recognize the nature of our enemy, then it's almost impossible to defeat them. How do you defeat an enemy if you don't understand who they are? I use this example, and there's many. Iran. Iran is a country that is ruled by a group of mullahs who believe in the return of somebody called the Mahdi, or the 12th Imam, who is going to come back at the end of times and help Shia Islam rule the Muslim world and eventually the entire world. Now, this is an apocryphal figure who, if you look at polls among Shiites who can be polled, and most of them are in Iraq, most Shiites now believe that he's going to be back in the next 5 years. Why? Because, well, the leaders in Iran are saying that he's coming back, that the end of the world is coming, and this guy's going to come back and he's going to lead us. Well, their vision of the end of the world is no different than every other religion's, which is this great apocryphal time. Well, what more could lead to an apocryphal time than a country with a nuclear weapon, the ability to drop it and start a global war? And this is the country we're giving a nuclear weapon to. Now, when you have a basic understanding of what the theology is behind Iran, why would you even contemplate allowing them to be a nuclear power? And we are. Why do you think most Republicans and Democrats up until the last few years drew a line in the sand and said, no way Iran is ever going to have a nuclear weapon? Pakistan has a nuclear weapon. They're a Muslim country. Why aren't we concerned about Pakistan? Because Pakistan isn't ruled by a radical theocracy. Pakistan isn't ruled by a theocracy that believes the end of the world is near. Republicans and Democrats know what I've just told you. Most Republicans and Democrats in the Congress know, but they don't share it with any of you. They think that would make them sound, well, apocryphal.
That's why they don't share it?
I think they don't want to. I don't think they want to be seen as sharing these types of things. And I think the other reason is they don't want to have to do anything about it. Because if there was a general understanding of the threat that Iran is to the world, look, why is Israel so apoplectic about Iran with a nuclear weapon? Because they know what they believe. They know that a key to starting some global conflagration could be taking out the state of Israel as a spark to the tinder. That's why this is such an important issue to understand the nature of the enemy and explain it to the American public. And this president simply is just not told the truth.